report in the Seattle Times today, quoting the prosecutor, Lynn Gast King, municipal prosecutor for the city of Sandusky, Ohio, says that the Seahawks did not reach out to her to talk about Frank Clark before drafting him. Charley Casserly joining me here right now on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Charlie?
Good morning. How are you, Rich?
I'm hanging in there, Charlie. So what do you make of all of this? It seems like the Seahawks did poke around a little bit, but didn't get very in depth other than just talking to Frank Clark and as they say, others involved in the situation. But the Seattle Times says that they never reached out to eyewitnesses. They never reached out to the prosecutor in this case. What do you think about this, Charlie?
Well, Rich, I've been reading the Seattle Times just like you have been here, and it's this is one of the things you want to avoid as a team. Okay, is that you have to have a degree of mental toughness when you take criticism. Okay, and you can't let it affect your decision. But you don't want to put yourself in a defensive position where it's embarrassing to you that an investigative reporter from the local paper is talking to what seems to be some obvious people to talk to that you didn't talk to, okay? And that's the thing there. There's no harm in talking to, as Tampa did, 75 people. There's not, and you may come to the same conclusion that you're going to take the player, but clearly you've got a difference of who people talk to here between the unnamed people the Seahawks have talked to and the named people that the newspaper has talked to, and right now they're losing the public relations battle on this. Now, I'll say one other quick thing. I had a team tell me yesterday they were going to take him too, but Seattle took him. So there's another city that could have had this issue too, at least one more.
Charley Casserly joining me here. John Schneider says he is on record as saying they do not believe that he hit his girlfriend, and that if they did believe that, they never would have drafted him. Is it fair to even say that they should have spoken to eyewitnesses in this, that they should have just gone as deep as speaking to two people who were at the hotel at the time and in the room next door, heard the commotion, looked in the room, saw a girl on the floor motionless? Should a team just run their own investigation on every prospect, or is that out of the realm of possibility because of how much there is out there to do?
Well, your point is there's a lot to do out there, and is it possible? I think if you start the discussion on the player, okay, and again, I don't know all the facts, but based on how I looked at things, I didn't have a lot of patience on these discussions, right or wrong. I usually, if we have some basic facts here, gone, okay. So and I can't
like
say
off the
I
board.
don't know enough of facts about this one, but the point I would make here is that if you were going to go down the road of taking this player, then why don't you talk to the eyewitnesses? Because if somebody else talks to them, like a newspaper, then you got to come back and answer that. At least you'd have the answer to the question. You can still take the player and choose that you only believe certain people, but I think you have to be ready for the public scrutiny to do this. And part of it can be, Rich, it's as simple as, hey, we did our investigation, we're happy with it, and that's all, and it doesn't make any difference how many articles the Seattle Times writes.
Yeah, that's what they're saying right now. Charley Casserly joining me here right now. And you said you didn't have a lot of patience. What do you mean? You just say, let's just take the kid off the board when this sort of thing would pop up?
Yeah. Now, for example, Lawrence Phillips. We didn't do an investigation on Lawrence Phillips, okay? I can tell you that right now. But the information that we had from the people at Nebraska was the incident was true, okay? I don't even know, and this may be wrong, I don't even think we even interviewed Lawrence Phillips, to be honest with you, to ask him if it was true. He says, we had enough verification. We thought that we're not going to bother with this, okay? And again, we were hard on it now. There are guys played in the league and had long careers that we took off our board because we didn't feel they fit our culture or where our team was at that time. And you don't look back once you do it. The problem is if you get one, okay, then you're going to have to deal with it. Now, unlike a Dallas situation or a Denver where the eyes are wide open, okay, on the problems that these players have had, in their case drugs, okay, they understand what they're getting. They understand the public scrutiny. Again, we got to believe that, Seattle has their version of the story here. And it is kind of interesting, and this isn't a good example, but with Ray Rice, Ray Rice ended up with no jail time. in the court system, and the NFL system appears to be harder than the court system.
Yeah, I know, and that's the point I was making before, is that the Seattle Seahawks could say, look, this is what he received in Ohio. This is what happened when the criminal justice system looked into it. We spoke to him, and we don't believe it happened, and leave it at that. And now there are fans who say, well, look, you shouldn't be hiring these people if any of this happens right now. And you should be looking into it perhaps a little bit more than the authorities in Ohio did so. Is that a fair request from the fan base in your estimation as a longtime evaluator in the NFL, Charlie?
I think you have to expect that reaction, especially in today's society. I think you have to do whatever due diligence you think is necessary to get the right answer. Now, here's the thing. All it counts is the right answer, not what you did to get to the right answer, okay? I'm not saying you're going to do something illegal, but if at the end of the day you have the right answer, it doesn't make any difference what anybody writes or who you talk to and who you didn't talk to, as long as you ended up getting the right answer. Now, obviously, there is conflicting testimony, as I'm reading this newspaper article, of eyewitnesses that said he hit her, and yet you have other people, saying that he didn't hit her. Well, and that's a little confusing. But again, we haven't had the ability to ourselves interview these people. Okay, but it is interesting. At the end of the day, I mean, he comes out of this with counseling, and instead of an assault on a fourth degree, or I guess a fourth degree persistent disorderly conduct. I'm reading what you read before, and that's what they charged him with, which is not what it appeared to be in the beginning.
A $250 fine and $100 in court costs, and will not have any domestic violence charge in his record if he completes his counseling. And so, last question, simple, Charley Casserly. If this player with this sort of history or background or story that's involved with him was on your draft board, you would have told your scouts, I don't care how good of a pass rusher he is, he would not have been on your draft board?
I wouldn't. Number one, I don't care how good of a pass rush he is. I want to make sure that he's a good citizen and that we're not going to have any problems with him. And I understand you give people a second chance, but domestic violence one was one that I didn't give a second chance to. I'd have to be sure of it, though. I'd have to be sure. I took a player one time who was accused of it, went to trial, Rich, was acquitted in 5 minutes by a female judge. Turns out it was a bogus case. Okay? So you've got to be sure it's right, that it's, what happened in that room.
Yeah, sure.
On it.
Charlie?
And if it happened, out.
Charlie, thanks for calling. I appreciate it. We'll chat soon.
Okay, Rich, good to be with you.
You bet. Same here. That's Charley Casserly, longtime general manager in Washington and Houston, longtime competition committee member, joining me here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.